Hello and welcome to Blue Zone. Today we're going to look at conventional and laser guided bombs, and essentially how to drop them. So the objective: learn how to drop conventional and laser guided bombs, understand the different bombing modes, and understand the program, drag, and mode options. Why do we care? This will help us hit the targets we're aiming for, so it'll help us be more accurate in dropping bombs. And where would you use it? Anytime bombs need to be dropped. Now, one thing I want to point out is that we're going to talk about how to drop the bombs, but be aware that bombs are just not dropped because they're dropped. Usually you have to fly a specific profile and pattern to drop bombs. This video does not cover the patterns and the profiles, the Z profiles. You can look it up if you want, but this video addresses how to drop the bombs and how to set it up to drop the bombs. So in our bomb inventory, we have the first two are laser guided bomb that we have. You'll notice that you have a GPU 31, but that's a GPS bomb. You can drop that one as a dumb bomb, but it's since it's not labeled as a regular bomb or a laser guided bomb per se, we're not going to cover in this one here. So when you load bombs, don't forget to add a targeting pod. Now you'll notice that there's two MK82s. There's one that's called SE, which stands for Snake Eye. That one is special. It has a high and low drag software selectable option. The high drag essentially allows you to it deploys fins when it's dropped, which slows down or retards its descent. So you could actually fly over the target, drop the bombs, and they would fall behind you. So bomb release conditions. What's required in order to be able to release bombs? Your gear has to be up and locked. That's common sense. The station where the bomb needs to be selected. Your master arm must be on, and air to ground mode must be selected. Now you can use simulate to circumvent the dropping the bombs. So you can drop bombs not for real by using simulate. There's 4 different release modes. There's auto. There's flight director, which is essentially using the autopilot, and it works identical to the auto, and we'll see that. There's continuous computed impact point, CIP. We will cover that one as well, and that's more of a visual dropping mode. And there's manual, which is used as a backup mode to drop bombs, and it's as you'll see, it's totally manual, and it's also visual. There's 2 drag modes for the Snake Eyes, as we just talked about. The FF, which is free fall, and you have your retarded mode, which is the high drag. Now, options for dropping bombs. You have the quantity option. So it determines how many bombs you're going to drop total. So it's selectable to 1 to 30, but you can't put 30 bombs on there. So you get a maximum of 6. There's multiple, 1 to 6, 1 through 6, and that's essentially how many bombs you want to drop at a time. So how many you drop simultaneously. There's a ripple interval that's selectable, 0 to 1600. So if you have a total quantity that you want to drop of 6, and you set multiple of 2, then you'll be dropping 2 at a time until the 6 are expanded, as long as you hold the pickle button. Now the ripple interval will determine how far apart those bomb drops will be while you're holding the pickle. So as I just indicated, it's a distance between salvo. You must hold the pickle through the whole run until all the bombs are dropped, otherwise it will stop dropping. There's an FD bank angle, so once you go into FD mode, you can select an ingress angle, and if you couple your autopilot, which we will show, you couple your autopilot with the bank angle, and it will turn the plane while in flight direction mode to that bank angle and maintain the laser on target and turn at that angle once you get at the target. So I just covered that. There's a reticle depression angle. Essentially, that's in the manual mode where you set the reticle angle compared to your waterline, and we'll show you that. And it's selectable to 0 to 270 milliradians. Short, it's called mils for short. The reticle is a circle, and we'll show you that as well. Now, here's some example. So there's a single drop, and the configuration for that would be one multiple, they release one bomb, and so in this case here, the single, you would have one quantity of one, which is the total amount that you plan on dropping, multiple, how many at once. So in this case, one total, one at a time, it's considered a single bomb release. Salvo means dropping more than one at a time. So here's an example. So if I have a quantity of 2 and a multiple of 2, that means I want to drop a total of 2 bombs, and I want to drop 2 at a time. So it's essentially called a salvo because there's more than one drop being dropped at the same time. Now you have a ripple single, which is essentially you decide to release more than one bomb. So release 2, for example, and or more, and a multiple of 1. So in this case here, while you hold your pickle, it would drop one bomb, and whatever interval you selected, it would drop another bomb. That's called a ripple, and you set your ripple interval. You must hold your pickle throughout the whole. That didn't sound good. Anyways, you must hold the pickle button until the ripple is finished. Ripple salvo, as you could probably guess, it means we're going to drop bombs at a certain interval, but there'll be multiple bombs dropped each time. So in this example here, I select 4 bombs, so that means I want to drop a total of 4, and I want to drop 2 at a time, and it's going to drop at the interval that I have selected. Okay. So just to recap, the quantity is the total that you want to drop, and the multiple is how many at once you want to drop. Let's look at the store's configuration. So that's the store page where you have your bomb that you want to select. So in this case here we have Snake Eyes and regular MK82s. In this case here, the Snake Eye is selected. So you will see here the bomb is ready. That means all the conditions are met. It's ready to be dropped. Now this is the page where you get your ground guns. Now the step button, which is below it, will actually allow you to step through each one of the selected stores. So if I press step here, it will go to the next 82 X-ray. So the next Snake Eye, it will go to this station here. The mode button itself allows you to change between the 4 modes. So here's the mode auto. In this case here, I want to drop a total of 2 bombs, a multiple of 1 bomb. So that means I'm doing a ripple, and the interval is going to be 76 feet between each of them. Now there's a fuse delay one. The fuse is not implemented in Superbug. That you cannot change. So perhaps in the Pro version they will change that, where you can set the fuse to detonate at 500 feet above the ground or what have you for soft target and that kind of stuff. Below that you have the drag. It's set to retarded. as we spoke earlier, the snake eyes can deploy fins to slow down their descent to become a high drag weapon, and selectable through the drag button. Now the program button here, you have 4 programs. So in this case here, we're in program number 3. You can cycle through the program. You'll have different settings that can be set in your MU. If you change a setting using the UFC, then that setting will be associated with the station. Now if you press the UFC, you have some options where you can change things. So notice here, in this case here, I've selected a weapon that would allow us to do, so there's one anomaly here. You would not see the bank angle in auto, it would be in FD mode. But I was trying to show all of the options. So in this case here, I selected to drop the total 4 bombs and one at a time at a ripple of 76 feet apart. And if I was in FD mode, it'd be taking a 45-degree bank angle to follow it. And we'll show you how to do that. Now the last button we did not talk about is the data button. So when you press the data button, you get one additional button which is called tone. The tone button itself, if you select it, it will have a tone when you press the pickle and it releases the bomb. As soon as the bombs are released, you'll hear a tone. So you have an option of tone 1 and tone 2. I saw no difference between the tone. Maybe it's my old ears, but they sound identical. To be honest, I find it quite annoying. But so the tone, you can select to have a tone so you know when your bombs are dropping. Once you press the data button, you get all kinds of information here. So you get a range in feet to your target. You get your current altitude, your ground speed, your true airspeed, is your the G. So notice here it's less than 1 G, so that means they're pushing the stick forward. A flight path attitude, it's 8 degrees, so it looks like they're on an 8-degree downwards. The aircraft heading is 104 degrees. It's rolling left about 6 degrees. You see here your current GPS coordinates. I'm not sure if it's your current GPS coordinate. No, sorry, I think that's the designated target coordinates. But if you don't have anything selected, it would be your. I'm not 100% sure on this one, to be honest with you. And this here is designated range, 2.4, and designated altitude of the target itself, 981 feet. The HUD indications. So if you look at this HUD representation here, you can see that I am in FD mode. And you can see that 3 seconds from release, so you get a countdown to release. And you see that the target is at 0.9 nautical mile. Now you have a drop, you have an azimuth steering line that you would follow. In this case here, the flight director would be following it. You have a caret where your target is. You see the laser is firing. The laser is armed, I should say. It will fire as soon as you drop for 10 seconds. You get the drop line dropping down, and once it hits the flight path marker, you should be pushing the pickle to release your bombs. And this here is your minimum altitude. So your flight path marker must be above this. If it ends up below it, you'll end up with a dud. In other words, the bomb won't have enough altitude to arm, or if it does detonate, you'll be in a frag area where you could be getting your plane damaged. Now, this indication here is the CCIP, and we're coming in on the ship here, and you can see that air-to-ground ranging is actually working for us, giving us range. And we're in CCIP mode, and you notice you have a cross here to aim while you're on your CCIP run. But there's one problem with this run. If you look here, the laser is not firing, it's crossed out, so it's disabled, it's not being utilized. And look at the flight path marker, it is below the actual line that we must stay above. So the weapon will not have enough time to arm, and that's why it says dud here. So now you also have the HUD Breakaway Ex. So once you see that, that means you have 1.5 seconds to break away with a 4G pole. So here you're low, and you get 1. I'm going pretty fast. I'm almost at Mark 1 diving on this boat, and I have 1.5 seconds to break away with a 4G pole so that I don't become one with that ship. Now let's look at it in the Superbug and see how it works and go through each option so that you get a good understanding how you can actually drop bombs. Let us take a look at the stores page and see the information that's available to us. Let's start by looking at the weaponry that I've put on. You'll notice that I have 82X, which are essentially snake eyes, and I've loaded 6 of them. Now from this page you can select the guns, or you can select a bomb. In this case we only have one, and that's the one I will select. The step button is what will allow you to step through each bomb of the same type. So we'll go to the next 82X, and that's useful if you're dropping heavy bombs and you have multiple, and you may want to, and you have to drop a second bomb. You may want to make sure that you drop on the opposite side, kind of deal. So you have your UFC, and that's where you would set the quantity of bombs that you will drop. And once you're in, if you have salvos, then you will see the interval option. If you're in FD mode, so let's do that. Let's say that I want to drop 4 bombs. Now you have an interval that you can set for the bombs to be dropped. If I am in FD mode, you have a bank option that you can set up. If I am in manual mode, then you have the reticle and milliradius that you can set up. So with that being said, the mode button is where you would switch between auto, FD, CCIP, and manual. Now with the 82X, you have an extra option. You have the drag option. If you look here, the drag says retarded, so it will deploy fins, and you could make it the FF, which is free fall. So we'll leave it in retard so you can see what's going on here. The programs, you have 4 programs. On program 1, we could go to program 2, 3, or 4, and you can set those individually and recall them, and they're based on the specific bomb option. So your 82X's will all be dropping this unless you change it. The data page, here we don't have any target selected, so the range is 0, but you have all the other information that we looked at earlier. So that constitutes the page. So let's go and look at the bombs that we will drop. So let's drop a single bombs, and we'll see what that looks like, and we'll take a look at the retard option. So let's put it here, and you'll see the fins deploy. Let's take a look at that. We'll drop 1 bomb. Notice how it is actually dropping a bomb, and the fins are opening up. So I'm dropping single one at a time. I'm pressing pickle, and then release 1. So now if I go, let's take a look at the other options that we have in the UFC. So now that was single. So if I choose to drop 2 bombs at the same time, so remember the quantity is how many bombs you want to drop. Multiple is how many bombs you want to drop at one time. So this here, just to illustrate the point here, we're going to do 2 bombs and 1 multiple. So what that means, I'm going to drop 2 bombs total, and as long as I hold my pickle, it will drop 1 bomb at a time at the interval that I put. So just to show that there is a just so that we can see it, I'm going to exaggerate this drop here to 1,000 feet. So now if we look at the plane here, I'm holding the pickle. 1, 2. That's it. That's called a ripple. So now let's do the same thing again. I'm gonna rearm. So this time we're gonna go and do a total of 4 bombs and 2 bombs at the same time. I should say, let's see, 4 bombs and 4 bombs at the same time. So let's try that first, just so we can get what we have. So if I have 4 bombs, dropping 4 of them at the same time, that's called a salvo. You have a salvo of multiple bombs being dropped at the same time. Remember, a multiple is how many simultaneous bombs you're going to drop. So let's take a look at that. So we did in fact see 4 bombs being dropped. Now we're going to do a salvo ripple. So if we go here and I select a total of 6 bombs, you can hear my bombs dropping. 6 bombs, and we'll drop it in multiple of 2 at once. Oops. Okay, 2 multiple. And my interval is 1,000 feet. So that means that I'm going to drop a total of 6 bombs of what I have selected, 2 at the time, 1,000 feet apart. So that's basically ripple salvo. And that is pretty much it for this area here. Next we're going to look at the symbology in the HUD. Okay, so let us take a look at the HUD symbology. I'm going fast here on purpose to show you something here. I'm going to select the bomb, and you'll recall the modes are selected by pressing the mode selection here. Now I've selected CCIP, and in order to see CCIP symbology, you have to put your TDC in the HUD. And you'll recall from the targeting video that when that happens, you would have a dot in the center of your flight path here. So let's go ahead and do that. Now you will see there's a drop line. There's an indication where the target is at. And there's also a minimum altitude. So below that altitude, your bombs would be duds, and you'd be in the frag zone. Now if you look at the bottom of the drop line, you'll see it looks like a cross. This line here will actually go down and act like a cross, and you can point your target directly in the center of the cross where you want to drop it, and we'll demonstrate that. But you have to have sufficient speed and sufficient angle that you're bombing, unless you're in a straight line going really fast. Because if I actually slow down, see what's happening here, you lose your cross. So just bear that in mind when you do CCIP. Let's take a look at the other modes here, and your AGR comes on to do the ranging for you. So let's take a look at the other modes that we have in Symbology. So we covered CCIP. Manual here. In manual you get a reticle. And the reticle itself here can be adjusted in milliradians. So the milliradians will adjust how far below it should be. Now the one thing to bear in mind with this thing is that it's totally manual, and it's usually used in conjunction with tables that indicate what degree of dive you should be using with how many milliradian, and what altitude you should be releasing your bomb. And we'll demo that. It's far less accurate, and it's intended to be a backup mode. Now the next mode we're going to look at is auto. So auto does not require a laser, and basically you target a specific you create a specific target, and you'll be able to bound that target just by following the waypoint. So let's get on the waypoint here so we can see the symbology. You can see the target is still 53 miles away. So if we move towards the target here and we're in auto mode, you'll see how we have a drop line. And now we're heading towards our target. And once we get near our target, we could drop our bomb. And notice here that it has intervals, right? Because I have selected to drop 6 in multiple F2s. Now the same applies here. You have your minimum altitude before you drop. If you drop below that, it doesn't have enough time to arm, and you'll see an indication of dud. Or if you are, or if the bomb does detonate and you're below that, you could get your plane will get damaged from fragmentation from the bomb. Now you see here in 99 RL, 99 is the maximum, but if I was closer, it would give me how many seconds before I drop the bombs. And you will see that one in our video here. And AGR means it's doing ground ranging, air to ground ranging on the target. So that is pretty much it for the symbology. So now we're going to go drop bombs so you can see how it all comes together in action. Now I have auto mode selected, and if you look, I've put the panel for the FLIR. I turned off the FLIR, no LTDR, no LST. In fact, LST is only needed when you want to acquire somebody else's laser, and it's not required when you do your own bombing. And that function is not activated. If you look back at my Buddy Lay's video, you're not required to, it will not turn on unless you select the LST option in the FLIR. So let's take a look at auto bombing. You see a designation here, you see the drop line. So this here you can actually use to target. So let's say, for example, if I want to bomb something that's right here where the dot is, I could designate that dot by pressing the pickle once, and it becomes designated. So now we'll undesignate. I have a preset target, which is my waypoint. I'm going to designate my waypoint as a target. Now you have a drop line. You basically follow the drop line, and then once you're at the target, you'll see the not the drop line, the steering line, sorry, the ASL azimuth steering line. And once you get in range, you see here it was 70 seconds from dropping the bomb. So you want to try to keep your flight path marker right on that line when you drop the bomb to be as accurate as you can possibly be. Remember, those are not laser guided, so they will not correct for you in midair. They fall wherever you actually drop them. So once the line reaches where we're going, where the bomb is, where the target is, I should say, then the bombs should drop on top of the target. 38 seconds to release, and you see that line at the top above it. It indicates where your target is. "16 seconds to release." Keep adjusting for the wind so that you are on. There's the drop line. Get ready to pickle. Pickle, dropped. And you see the bombs dropped. So now we're going to wait to hear the noise that the bombs are dropped, and then we'll take a look at our target. Okay, heard the bombs. Let's go take a look at what we have. And we did hit the bullseye. So that was the bombs in auto mode. The important thing to remember is that you need to follow the azimuth steering line very closely if you want to be accurate. Okay, so let's take a look at the FD mode. So I have the FD mode selected. I turned on the FLIR, not required, but we want to look at I want to look at our target. The one thing that's required is your LTDR. You don't need the LST, you're not buddy lasing, you're not getting a laser from somebody else, so you don't need to have that on. You do need to have the LTDR so that you can do your laser target designator and ranger. The FLIR itself, theory does not need to be on if you have a target designated. I'm turning it on so we can see it, but also because I want to show you that you can actually set it up to trigger. And what that means is that the only time the laser would fire if I have trigger selected is if I'm holding my fire button, the same one for the guns. So that's all I want to point out. Now, once you are in FD mode, it's intended to be a release via your flight director using your autopilot. Now, if I had the target, if I was navigating towards the target, you see how it couples to waypoint. So what you want is make sure you undesignate the target, undesignate the navigating to the target here. I mean, unselect, I should say. And then it gives you the bank option available. In the UFC, we're going to exaggerate it a little bit here and give it a bank of 60 degrees. So what that will do is it will travel at it will turn at 60 degrees at the autopilot, and as you get past the target, it will egress and take a 60-degree turn to try to maintain the laser on the target. Be aware that when it does this, 60 degrees is exaggerated, so it will probably lose the target and mask it. So hopefully the bombs will be on there before we lose it. So let's go ahead and take care of this, and we'll set our altitude, and we'll couple to the bank, and now we'll head towards our target. Now you're seeing the mask here because the targeting pod cannot see the target at this point. Now it can see the target. So you see it's on the crossroad here. I'm going to narrow it down so you can see it. And you could adjust your targeting here. I'm just going to leave it as is. And we're 51 seconds away from release. The same thing as auto mode. You wait for your line to drop. And once it hits your flight path marker, when it's near, simply hit the pickle button, and it should hit your target. Okay, 28 seconds to release. And notice it's taken care of by the autopilot. Ten seconds to release. There's a drop line at the 10-second mark. I'm holding the pickle. Bombs away. So now it will take a 60-degree bank as we pass over the target. Impact. And now you see how it's taking a 60-degree bank. So that's the FD mode. It's as simple as that. Let us look at other modes. The mode that we're going to look at is the manual mode. Now the manual mode is a backup mode. There is no FLIR, no laser, no LST, there's nothing, and you degraded or targeting system is messed up, or you can't use other modes. It's kind of a last resort mode. And this mode is in real life would be used with tables that would indicate what speed you should be going, what altitude, what the angle of dive you should be in when you're dropping the bombs, and what altitude you would be dropping the bombs. So I did find something. But I'm not sure that. Well, we'll see how it works. I'm gonna take some. I'm gonna change to 82 X-ray snake eyes, simply because this way we can drop at lower altitude. And you can see what I mean. So just get into a row here, and I'll put some snake eyes. There we go. So now we have some snake eyes, and we're gonna go manual mode. Let's go to our UFC. We'll drop all 4 at once. And the table that I looked at, I need to have this at 122. Unfortunately, it seems to round up to 120, but that will be fine for what we're trying to do. So now we'll put our TDC in the HUD, and you see the symbology. So now, just to point out here, the 122 is basically from the waterline down to the reticle. So just to exaggerate the point, if I set it to 150, see what happens to it. It gets lower. It's a very manual mode. Okay, so I'm gonna level out towards our target. And in this case here, there's no targeting. You're essentially flying to the target and manually dropping the bombs. So now we'll try to achieve a 10 degree dive while my reticle would be on the target. So notice that I get the ranging, so it's going to help me with ranging to the target. Okay, we're getting close to our target. Now I set 10 degrees, so I'm going to try to let it go past here. And probably get past this this edge of the target range to get me my approximate setup for bombing it. Okay, so let's try this out. Let's see how I cannot get a 10 degree dive here. Now I want to put that circle on the target. It'd be at a 10 degree dive. A little bit more, and I will release the bombs at when I'm at 1,000 feet. So a little bit off my pattern here. feet, I pickled. Let's see how we did. Yep, we did okay. So that is the manual mode. Now the last mode we will look at is the CCIP. CCIP is the last mode we're going to look at. Now you'll notice the FLIR is on. We do not need the FLIR, but you can use the FLIR to identify where your bomb's going to drop. So let's get into CCIP mode, and I have it on just to show you something. So I have the bomb selected, CCIP mode selected. I'm going to change my release to 4 bombs total and a salvo or 4 bombs. Now what I want to point out is in order to see your CCIP symbology, you have to put your caret into the HUD. So let's do that. So now we have the drop line, and we have a dot in the middle here, which indicates that we're in CCIP and the HUD has priority. Now wherever your FLIR is pointing is where your bomb would be selected to drop. I haven't tested to see if you can actually target with it that way. I would imagine you can. But in order to get the crosshairs to come up for you to aim visually in the HUD, you need to have sufficient speed. And I will demonstrate that. So once again, you don't need the FLIR. I just put it on to show you that it will track wherever your CCIP is. And you don't need the laser or the laser spot tracking. So let's turn off the FLIR since we don't need it. But you can use it to identify your target. Now we're going to try to hit a bullseye in this range that we're coming up on. And as I indicated, you need sufficient speed in order for you to see the crosshair in the HUD to be able to aim at it. So we're going to get past the target itself, and the target is going to be the bullseye that's coming up on the left hand side. Okay, we got a great rate of speed. Waiting for the target to be passed. Okay, that's a right place to be. So I'm going to start my turn towards the target. Okay, we're pointing at a target now. And let's roll in on a target. Now notice how the bar is going down and giving us an aiming point. There we go. Bombs away. Turn. Share the bomb soon. We heard the bomb. Let's go see how well we did. And we hit the target on the bullseye. So that's essentially how CCIP works. And that is it for this video. I hope it was helpful to you. If you enjoyed the video or liked the video, please click like and subscribe. I plan on making more videos. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Been a blast. Later.